Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Season 4. Let's watch.
Like, he said that, like, okay, now that you say something, I wasn't gonna say anything, but, like, she was, like, touching me, being all feely in the pool, and, like, that was, like, behind, like, my back, and, like, how do you think that makes me feel when, like, I was literally your lifeline to all of these girls? You had no one to talk to. I stuck up for you. I always was like, that's my bitch.
You had no one to talk to you, and I stuck up for you. Yeah. I'm gonna take a guess and say that Micah has insecurities herself. Well, so it's either that Micah was looking for someone that needed her to make her feel better about herself, not in a bad way, we do that sometimes, or Micah doesn't really know who she is, which is not uncommon for younger people to still be developing that, but maybe not to this degree. Maybe Micah went through some stuff when she was young such that she doesn't really know who she is. She doesn't really know her worth or what her needs are, what her identity is. Am I the sort of person that laughs at people in those situations? Am I the sort of person that doesn't? And so she absorbs in an undifferentiated way other people around her. Because I was wondering that, like, was Irina the one that is driving this laughing at people? But then there was that one scene where Irina was really taking care of Jackie in a very different way than we would see otherwise in other scenes. And as soon as Micah walked in, but maybe, I don't know, it's such a weird dynamic, you know, at least that one data point, who knows? And I think Irina has legit ability to be mature and loving and compassionate and caring and fair. There were some scenes with Zach at the end that she was fair. There was another conversation they had in bed where she was admitting to things like, yeah, maybe I just have issues. So I don't know. It wouldn't be so weird if it wasn't so pronounced in the pool, in the pods, just how much ridicule that the two of them would have towards other people, where other people could kind of hear them, and the behaviors that they engaged in towards other people. It was pretty awful, right?
I never left your side. Was I the big fool here that, like, missed your, like, red flags, or was it just a misunderstanding?
I really appreciate you a lot, by the way. I never want you to feel like I'm going behind your back or being sneaky or anything. Like, that makes me feel so icky.
Okay, good. Starting good. And she told Micah. She didn't have to tell Micah. I think a lot of people in this situation wouldn't. Irina went to Micah and said, by the way, I have a crush on your boyfriend, on your fiance. So, you know, it shows that trustworthiness or something. So I'm glad we're seeing this conversation. It is very much in contrast. I mean, the content is in line with the negative side of their dynamic or of their behavior, where Irina would entertain a relationship, at least in her mind, and also openly flirt. And she's not refuting anything that Micah's saying. Micah's saying, Paul said you were flirty with him, that you were touching him in the pool. Irina didn't refute that, at least in this edit. So the content is on the negative side, I would say. But the way they're talking about it is mature, is taking responsibility, is caring, is acknowledging. I think Irina does want Micah as a friend. I think Micah wants Irina as a friend.
I really appreciate you a lot, by the way. I never want you to feel like I'm going behind your back or being sneaky or anything. Like, that makes me feel so icky because like, I do admit, like, Boo doing that, like, that's so sneaky. That's like, yeah. And then me seeing Paul, and honestly, I was way more attracted to him than I was to Zach. Like, he was attractive, like, great. Like, honestly.
So she's laughing as she's saying this. It's not congruent with what's happening, right? Micah is pretty serious, and Irina's laughing. I hypothesized this before, but this is another data point, that Irina was required psychologically when she was younger to adapt by adopting a laughy defense mechanism to diffuse things. Sometimes people go through tremendous abuse, and the only way they can diffuse it in their minds or even to the other person, sometimes as you're being abused, you will continue to be more abused if you start to complain or you start to cry. And so sometimes you have to reroute your emotions neurologically to laughter. Sometimes I don't know, but if you're ever in a movie theater and you're watching a movie and a really intense, sad, or really upsetting scene comes on the screen and you'll hear someone laughing hysterically at the movie in the movie theater, who knows? But I hypothesize sometimes that those individuals were forced to express their horror through laughter or just discomfort or something. So that could be another reason as to why the two of them would just ridiculingly, at least seemingly ridiculingly, laugh when they were uncomfortable. So who knows? And maybe it grows more, not just laughter, but also like, let's make this into a joke because that's the only way to cope with the situation. I don't know. It's just another little data point. Because I think Irina does legitimately, well, I don't know. As she's starting to laugh, it's hard to know.
It was like it was
like an attraction thing.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have to.
Which is like they're literally not why we were on like this experiment. You didn't feel like the love in the pods with Paul, but he was hot. Now you're like, dude.
No, I'm gonna be honest. I just felt a connection as just a connection.
It made me think like,
okay. So what are you saying, Irina? That justifies it? I don't know. She seems to be apologizing-ish, but it almost seems like Irina's saying, look, I couldn't help it. I felt a connection. I was attracted to him. So what else was I gonna do?
Like, dude.
No, I'm gonna be honest. I just felt a connection as just a connection.
It made me think like, am I missing something? Like, do I not know something? Like, should I question Paul? Like, I looked at him in the airport and I was like, I want to punch him in the back of the head. Like, it made me feel so caught off guard.
Punch him in the back of the head. Again, it's just a phrase, but it's an interesting phrase. And when you match it all up, could we imagine Chelsea or Tiffany saying that? You know, Brett, I was bothered. Plus, what did Paul do? I wanted to punch him in the back of the head. I don't know. What do you think about that phrase?
And like, I don't like want someone that I consider like a best friend to like make me feel doubt and like someone that I'm like trying so hard to like build this future with.
It's interesting that she's framing it that way. She's saying, I want an apology because you made me question my relationship with Paul. I don't know. I just keep reading into things with Micah, but is that her way of blaming Irina for having second guesses about Paul, or a way of scapegoating her even consciously? I don't know, because you would think that Micah would primarily be upset that, hey, I don't want you fantasizing about and flirting with my partner, even if I'm not just with Paul eventually, but if we're going to be friends, I have to trust that you're not going to be actively trying to get with my partners. It's just not a good feeling. And that you wouldn't think about our friendship, that you would just do it anyway. This episode is sponsored by Betterhelp. Let's talk about self-awareness. I'm often talking about a connection with the self, a connection with who you are, what you want, what you need, this kind of thing. And how for some people, since they weren't attuned to enough as a child, they don't have a strong connection with the self, and therefore they have to go through a lot of therapy to get in connection with the self. But really, I don't know anyone who doesn't cut themselves off from their needs. None of us were 100% attuned to 100% of the time. And of course, that's where therapy can help everybody. And as a therapist, I've witnessed clients discover mind-blowing aspects of themselves that really helped them in their lives. Well, that's where Betterhelp comes in. Betterhelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery wherever you are. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and flexible to your schedule. So discover your potential with Betterhelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
So caught off guard. And like, I don't like want someone that I consider like a best friend to like make me feel doubt and like someone that I'm like trying so hard to like build this future with.
You don't have to worry about like what I feel about Paul. Or, like,
I could literally give a fuck. I know he's not interested. My thing is like,
well, one, I think she meant I can't literally give an F. Because if you can literally give an F, then that means you care. That's what that phrase means. That means that you are giving Fs. Right? You know, it's like, in fact, there was a point earlier in the season, I didn't comment on it because why, but someone said I could care less instead of I couldn't care less. the phrase is, I couldn't care less. If you could care less, then you care. So if you could give an F, that means you care. Anyway, I don't know. The way that Irina is, it just seems like she's kind of a lost child in the woods in some ways that's trying to do well. That's, she has some issues with her behavior, doesn't justify it. But with Micah, it just feels more conscious. It feels more, it feels scarier for some reason than Irina does. But Irina, I think, is there to actually talk with her friend and to try to apologize. She wasn't amazing at it, but she's not refuting it and she's not getting defensive. She's showing a lack of, I think, empathy by what she was saying earlier, just like, well, I don't know, I was really attracted to him and smiling. I don't think that's really going to come across well. Maybe that's what's triggering Micah. But it's interesting because an hypothesis about Irina, given what we've heard, I imagine there's got to be something there that Irina went through some period, if not a long period, maybe a perpetual period of feeling ostracized by her peers. And ironically, what will happen, unfortunately, is that our defenses against that, as we carry those traumas through our life, will evoke the same reactivity from other people sometimes. I'm often talking about other personality disorders. For example, with borderline, you can be abandoned and then you carry with you a schema of, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm going to be betrayed, I'm going to be rejected, I hope I don't. But you walk around with this schema of that expectation, and then when there's the slightest hint that someone is abandoning you, even if there's really no evidence of that, like you text them at work and they don't text you back right away, then through that schema and that terror of worry about abandonment will cause the belief that you are being abandoned, and then you feel very hurt and then very angry, and then you feel justified in attacking your partner for not texting you back right away, and you feel justified, and then over time you pile up enough of these behaviors, and then your partner does leave you, does abandon you. So with Irina, total speculation, she went through ostracization when she was younger, and she ends up having defenses against that, like having this ridicule of other people, heavily bonding with another person that she can find that is similar to her, and maybe even desperation about Paul, that she's so desperate for someone to work out with her. Well, this is interesting. So Zach did want to be with her. This is total speculation, of course, but there's a possibility that for Irina, she has a complex around, if someone wants to be with me, this is a real stretch, but someone could have exploited her. I won't go into detail, of course, because there's a lot of different types, but I don't even want to get specific because this is such a stretch of a speculation. But Paul was not available. So for Irina, Paul is a safer target of her affection. Maybe Zach was also safe to her in the pods because there was no physical options of contact. But as soon as there was, and there's all this energy from Zach towards Irina, it was overwhelming and terrifying and maybe even scary because she equates that with exploitation. I don't want to throw those kind of rumors out there. I'll just say that it would be an hypothesis that would be worthy of exploration. And then with friends, she enters into the pods with the schema, again, total speculation, that people are going to reject her. And so she ends up retreating and then looking for someone, and Micah comes around, so then they really bond, and Irina does a lot of, I'm with you, and Micah, I think, was also insecure, so she's like, yeah, I'm with you, yeah, we're together. And how do we prove that we're together? Well, we triangulate with other people. We will ridicule others as a way of proving that we're in the in-group and they're in the out-group. It's a shortcut to bonding, and I talked about this. In that process, Irina ends up ostracizing herself from others because she is so assuming that other people aren't going to like her. So other people are awkward and feel uncomfortable around her, so they do reject her. Maybe not actively, but they just don't pursue her, right? So that could be the self-fulfilling prophecy there. And then, again, this is really just stretching it. The two of them in their outgrouping of other people would ridicule others and would downplay and say like, oh, who cares? We're cool. Everyone else seems to care. Maybe that's part of it, is like, well, the out group cares and we are not of the out group, and that's the only way we can bond because we contrast ourselves with them and they seem to care. The Jackies and the Ambers, they care about this process. We don't care, right? We don't care, right? And then Irina adopts this point of view pathologically and thinks, well, Micah doesn't care, so I'm going to hit on Paul because no one cares, right? We all agree that. And then it ends up shooting her in the foot. So now she's in a situation that maybe she's been in many times, Irina, where she desperately tries to latch on to someone. A lot of toxicity is involved in that relationship, and then it blows up in her face, and she has even more reason to be suspicious of bonding with friends in the future, groups in the future. I don't know. But I feel kind of bad for Irina right now. I think she deserves to be told that it hurts, but I don't know. There's something kind of sad about this. I feel like crying for Irina right now.
My thing is like our friendship, like it's our friendship. Like if we were to continue being friends and like I marry this person, like are we able to hang out? Like should I feel comfortable? Like are you gonna get drunk and be flirty?
I don't think I would ever make a move. Like if I felt that way, like I would be like, oh, like sit me down with Paul.
What is she saying? She's saying if I ever felt that way, specifically even with Paul, I would ask you to have where I would sit down with him for what? So wait, what is she saying?
Continue being friends and like I marry this person, like are we able to hang out? Like should I feel comfortable? Like are you gonna get drunk and be flirty?
I don't think I would ever make a move. Like if I felt that way, like I would be like, oh, like sit me down with Paul. I haven't seen Paul. Paul doesn't sound like he like wants to see me or like talk.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's evidence that Irina is feeling like there's still a chance with Paul or something. There's also, they're editing it also. So it's a possibility that Irina elaborated on that point and they cut it out to make her look bad. I don't know. At the very least, there's not a clear indication from Irina. I mean, you would just hope that Irina would say something like, yeah, I was wrong. I had an attraction to him, but I shouldn't have entertained it. And that's wrong of me. And I'm not going to do that anymore. And I don't have any feelings for him anymore. I mean, maybe kind of, but not really. I mean, I think I was just latching on to him because we were isolated. And because that's another possibility, is that she just was not feeling it with Zach. She was actively repulsed by him. And she was just looking for a way out. And maybe she has this pattern of rebounding, so to speak, and just like, okay, I don't like this, but I'll just find someone else to latch on to. And Paul is a pretty easy target for that kind of thing because he's so mellow and I think a little oblivious and would, entertain that and wouldn't push back. He's very safe, I suppose. And that is something to think about in terms of your rebounds, like the sort of safe people that you rebound towards. You might even be one of those people that people feel is very safe and will rebound towards and not really take seriously anyway. So, you just think Irina would say something along those lines and say, yeah, no, I'm not going to hit on Paul. Yeah, and totally, he's not into me. That's fine. That's not really the issue. But I have issues. I was in a stressful place. And if I ever feel that impulse again with Paul or anyone else, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you that I'm working on it. And if that means I can't hang out with you and your partner, maybe that's what it means. I don't know. But clearly I have some kind of issue there. You'd just think she would say something like that instead of, I don't know what she's saying.
Like if I felt that way, like I would be like, oh, like sit me down with Paul. I haven't seen Paul. Paul doesn't sound like he like wants to see me or like talk to me. Like no.
I like my rose with some Swiss and sometimes make friends with the fire.
Okay, they're playing the loud music. Does that mean the conversation is over? I don't know. Let's keep watching.
Drinking the fuel.
Oh, they're at Poquitos. I was wondering where they were. I was hoping we'd see an outside shot. That is definitely Capitol Hill area, Pike and Pine. All right, well, if you didn't know, we have a website, obviously, but we have some interesting stuff on the website. It's mainly oriented towards the audio podcast, and also know that we have an audio podcast that you can get on podcast apps and Spotify, and we also post on YouTube the audio episodes usually. But you can access the audio episodes. We go into more depth on things, a lot of clinical things, a lot of theoretical things, emails, that kind of stuff. we'll do deep dives on particular public figures. So you can go to the website and actually see episodes that are categorized. We're currently trying to revamp the website significantly because the website's basically just designed by me and my wife, and we don't know what we're doing. But actually someone reached out to us and said, I could help you with the website, so they're helping. Anyway, so yeah, that does it for that episode. Take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.